We're going to watch a video called The Infamous Case of Lonnie Franklin Jr. Another one from the GBP video channel. And 40 minutes. You know how the ads work. We know how this goes down. We're gonna chill. We're gonna enjoy this, and yeah.
Haunted the city for a quarter century. A serial killer who allegedly preyed on the weak.
Women from South Central LA. The murderer was nicknamed the Grim Sleeper because he was dormant for 14 years until 2002 when he started to murder again.
The day after the LAPD released these photos, they started getting phone calls, hundreds of phone calls. Several of those callers say they saw their own photo in the collection.
Since 1985, a murderer has roamed the streets of South Los Angeles. He's taken the lives of 11 people.
After a 14-year break, the Grim Sleeper awoke to kill 3 women in 2002, 2003, and 2007.
That this Grim Sleeper, as he's known, who was quiet, it seems,
always
for
good to give a
14
serial
years,
killer a nickname.
may not
I'm
have
sure
been
they
quiet
hate
for those
that.
years.
Well, I don't believe for a minute he was quiet. He was right here, lived in the same place.
You think he kept on killing?
Yes, I'd like to report a murder or a dead body or something. Correct. The address is 1346 East.
See a pattern?
56th
Yes, you do.
Street in
Always
the
is
alley.
one.
And the only thing you can see out is her feet.
Okay, what's your name?
Huh?
What's your name?
Oh, I don't stand anonymous. I know too many people. Okay, then, bye-bye.
In the early 80s,
Like I
South
said,
Central
no, I'm
LA,
not, no.
police would notice a string of murders reoccurring yearly, consisting of African-American women. The women would either be shot by a .25 caliber handgun, strangled to death, or death due to a result of fatal blunt force. The bodies would then be discarded throughout alleys with garbage piled on top of them. This style of homicide would eventually dub the attacker as the South Side Slayer. Little did detectives know they couldn't have been more wrong. It wasn't until 1985 where this mysterious killer would attack yet again. But this time, the victim was able to escape. 26-year-old Henrietta Margaret was able to escape her attacker and report the crime to LAPD. She was able to give an elaborate description of the man and his car, which seemed to have momentarily scared him off. The Southside Slayer would eventually be arrested in 1993. His name was Michael Hubert.
Thank you, though.
He was responsible for the death of 6 women and 1 child. But police would soon realize they were dealing with a different serial killer, as the DNA found would be an exact match to an unknown man. In 2001 through 2003, 3 more women would be found dead in alleys due to a .25 caliber handgun or asphyxiation.
I mean, that's a...
Fortunately, modern technology and forensic science would soon be introduced and eventually reveal important pieces of evidence. Familial DNA is the process of searching through the FBI's original DNA database to detect and list potential candidates who may be biological relatives to the unknown DNA presented. The DNA found on all the women would come back.
Does a lot. This does a lot, actually. A lot of cold cases have been solved. A lot of people have been exonerated because of familial DNA.
As a partial match to a man named Christopher Franklin, whom was charged with the use of a deadly weapon years prior. Detectives knew Christopher couldn't be responsible for the murders, as he would have been too young to commit such acts during those early time periods. Detectives' next potential suspect was Christopher's father, Lonnie Franklin, a mechanic and sanitation worker whom also lived in South Central. All police needed to do was get a sample of Lonnie's DNA, but how? After trailing Lonnie for hours on end, police would follow him into a restaurant where they would then retrieve a discarded pizza belonging to him. They were able to confirm an exact match, and he was taken into custody and questioned by 2 senior detectives. Police were instantly granted a search warrant and began to search his residence, where they would then make a startling discovery.
Was it him?
Well, before we get into it, I know I can see right by your expression you got a lot of questions to ask us. And, we got a couple to ask you too. Okay. I'm sure you've seen this on TV 1,000 times.
They went digging in the trash. Yes. So you'd actually be shocked that this is a valid form of policing. Smoking gun was a pizza slice. Yep. You want to know? I mean, you say that, but things like this are what happens. I mean, like, who was it? Somebody got a famous serial killer got caught because he blew a stop sign. Ted Bundy got caught because he had a broken taillight. And the police officer who pulled him over to tell him thought he looked familiar. Like, this happens. Police digging through the trash is not an inadmissible thing. Especially if it's like your trash, maybe, but like you could argue that. But if it's like on public property and you throw something away, if the police have probable cause to think that you're the murderer or like the suspect, you're not necessarily a murder case, they can take that and analyze your DNA. It's fully allowed, which is an interesting thing because you wouldn't expect something like that to be what does somebody in, but it does. It happens. Wild shit.
Advise you, and then we'll talk about it man to man here. And okay. That okay? Mm-hmm. You have the right to remain silent. You understand that?
Yes. In the beginning of this interrogation, Lonnie is seated in the corner, most likely a strategic ruse calculated by the detectives to induce a sense of entrapment. It's also worth noting Lonnie's kinesis, as we're given in hindsight. The person before your very eyes were one of FBI's most prolific serial killers in the early 80s. So, understanding his relaxed demeanor throughout this entire incrimination can serve as purpose and be used as reference in other similar situations.
So, do you want to sit here and talk about the warrant?
Yes.
And what the charges are against you? Mm-hmm. Okay, great. We have been investigating a murder that occurred in 2007. Okay? And it involves a young lady. And I'm going to ask you, show you a photograph of this young lady and see if you recognize her.
No, I don't.
You've never seen that girl before?
No, I haven't.
Who is that?
Shouldn't have answered.
Is that Peters?
Yes.
All right.
No, I haven't.
Okay. Like I said, we've been investigating this. It's 2007.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not down here. We didn't just pick your name out of a hat. I mean, you watch all these little police shows and CSIs and all that stuff with modern technologies and all that.
Right.
Okay, well, you've been identified to this young lady. Okay, do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you have any questions about that? Why would you be identified?
I don't know. I don't know. I know a lot of people, but I don't know her.
Okay.
A crucial step in the interrogation, but detectives skip rapport developments as they believe they have overwhelming evidence at hand. Another noteworthy moment was Lonnie's last sentence. As voice recognition is a growing industry used in forensic science, Lonnie's last statement, when played next to the 911 call pertaining the death of a woman, under analysis can show clear resemblance and can be used in court as further evidence.
I don't know. I know a lot of people, but I don't know her.
I know too many people.
I don't know. I know a lot of people, but I don't know her.
Interesting.
I know too many people.
Okay, in 2003,
me hear that again.
A lot of people, but I don't know her.
I know too many people.
I don't know. I know a lot of people, but I don't know her.
I know too many people.
Okay, in 2003.
I don't know. That's a stretch. I mean, yes, he's right. The only way that could really be more solid is if they could somehow establish the uniqueness in the speech pattern or the uniqueness in the sound wave. Because the way people talk, we have significantly unique sound waves. I mean, it can be similar, but we talk in specific ways, and you can do your best to line that up, but it might be hard to do that with these two things because they're separate audios on different things. It's like, I mean, I'll go with it. It's possible, but this wouldn't be a preponderance of evidence. This wouldn't be enough to identify him as the one who made the call. I mean, like, you could argue it was. You could also argue the casual nature of him in that call. I mean, he seems pretty chill about it. He said something like there's a murder or dead body or a murderer or something here or something. Like, he sounded very casual. So, I mean, like, you could argue a few things there, but I don't know. I don't think that's like the biggest nail in the coffin, that's for sure.
No, I haven't.
You don't know that lady?
No, I don't.
You've never seen her?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't.
Mr. Franklin, just like the other one, your DNA was found on this young lady.
Okay.
Is there a way to explain that?
No, it's not.
There's no
I don't know this. I don't know this lady. Sorry.
That's Valerie McCorvey.
Okay.
2002, this young lady was found. Do you recognize her?
No, I don't.
Princess.
I don't.
You've never seen her before?
No.
Mr. Franklin, we're both old guys.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here, and you know, I'm ready to answer questions of you.
Right.
I'm being upfront with you, and by you telling me that you don't know these people or hadn't know any way that your DNA got on their bodies,
No.
you're insulting my intelligence.
I'm sorry, I don't know.
This young lady,
Weird technique.
Alicia Alexander.
Are you making fun of me?
Was found.
Leave it to a cop to take a suspect's silence personally. Oh, you think I'm stupid, huh?
And again,
Whatever, guy.
My
DNA
is
it's all linked to you. Now, Mr. Franklin, I mean, you watch these shows. You tell me once, you know, maybe you met the gal and you had a little relationship with her and she turns up dead. You know, maybe a coincidence. I just showed you
4 people.
4 people. I mean, your coincidences are getting pretty slim. Wouldn't you say?
Yes, sir.
I mean, what do you? I mean, do you have anything to say? I mean,
No, I don't. I don't know the people. I'm sorry.
I mean, how would your DNA get there?
Smart.
What logical reason?
I have no clue.
Unfortunate he's smart,
clue.
but smart.
I have no clue how my DNA would get there.
As detectives proceed with a forward and factual approach, Lonnie's demeanor has yet to change, nor does he provide an explanation for how his DNA could be present at each crime scene.
This young lady, Lucretia Jefferson.
No. I don't know her.
Again. Coincidence?
My DNA. I have no idea.
Let me ask you something. Do you know what DNA is?
Yes, the blood, saliva,
What if he was just like,
anything,
no.
any body fluids that make contact.
Okay, and it's like a fingerprint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, only one person has that DNA.
Okay, so you understand it probably better than I do.
I understand, but I don't know these people. So,
Okay.
yeah, you got 5 or 6 people here, and
Well,
I don't know.
so far.
Yeah.
From me,
Yeah, you know.
Are you You go to church?
Yes, I do. Matter of fact, I'm supposed to be at church tonight.
Detectives now try and correlate two locations pertaining a 911 call where a male would report a dead body and a vehicle that was involved.
Yes, I'd like to report a murder or a dead body or something.
Where at?
The address is 1346 East 56th Street, in the alley. You know, he threw her out. The only thing that's hanging out of this, like he threw a gas tank on top of her, and the only thing you can see out is her feet.
Okay, what's your name?
Huh?
What's your name?
Oh, I don't stand anonymous. I know too many people. Okay then, bye-bye. 1PZP746.
That vehicle was later found in front of a church.
Did you used to have access to drive their van?
No, I didn't.
Interesting.
Did you know people that went there?
No, I don't.
You're not that far from 60th and Normandy from where you're living.
Yeah, it's around the corner from the park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's not familiar to you, the Cosmopolitan Church?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Personally,
I'm very impressed at your knowledge of the DNA, that it's saliva and blood, and it's only connects to one person in the world. And
unless
I mean, even your kids don't have your DNA. You know, they might have your blood type or something, but they don't have your DNA. That's just like they don't have your thumbprint. It's only like, Mr. Lonnie Franklin has the DNA makeup that's found on those young ladies right there.
This is partially true. DNA is passed down in huge chunks of chromosomes, which each offspring receives 50% of their.
An ad has played. I have to go to the bathroom. Real bad. Be right back, chat. Don't worry, chat. I made it.
Parents' DNA chromosome. This
it has the DNA makeup that's found on those young ladies right there.
This is partially true. DNA is passed down in huge chunks of chromosomes, which each offspring receives 50% of their parents' DNA. In this case, this is entirely true, as Lonnie was traced through his son's DNA, being an 89% biological match.
Here.
Damn.
Mary Lowe was her name.
No, I don't know her. She looked like a girl live in Rialto, one of my wife's friends. But her name is I can't get it right now. Her name is she just called a few weeks ago. I can't let it come to me. But I don't know her.
Okay.
But she just favored the same facials.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Okay. What was the point of that?
this young lady here, her name was Bernita Sparks.
Wow, she looked heavy set.
Why?
No, I just said she looked fat.
Yeah. Okay, bro.
Okay.
All right, murderer.
You ever own any weapons?
Detectives now inquire further into the weapons Lonnie may have had possession of. As Lonnie recounts all of the weapons he'd had throughout the years, he fails to recall an important weapon found in his house. The same caliber weapon used in each murder.
Wow.
So that's all the handguns you own?
That's it.
You don't own any more
What a
handguns?
seemingly intentional
what about that
thing.
25 caliber there in your closet?
25 caliber. What is it, a rifle?
No.
25 caliber. It's a 25 caliber. A pistol.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, over the. That's not mine.
It's not?
No, that's my brother-in-law's. Delroy Lino. He has two. I have two things of his. He got evicted. We just picked up his stuff last week.
Detectives refrain from seeking a confession for the firearm and continue to reveal the women that have been found linked to his DNA.
This young lady here. Name is Barbara Ware.
Yep, not mine.
Never saw her before. No, nothing about it.
Nothing about it. Sorry, I don't.
I don't understand.
Again, you know, it's like I told you earlier. I mean,
I am failing to see the tactic here. Because if they know he did all this, they don't need him to confess to this. So why do they keep showing victim after victim? When he is like, why after like the 7th picture, he'd be like, yeah, I knew her. Actually knew all of them. You got me. Motive? Him identifying a picture doesn't scream motive. Like that doesn't automatically give motive. Serial killers don't have motive based off of like people they know. The whole fascinating thing about serial killers is they don't specify who they kill. They have a target, they have an MO. Like they might have particular types of people, but they don't go for like a specific person. If they did, they would kill that one person and be okay. Or they would get over it. But they don't do that. There's a disconnect there between personal and fit the mold kind of thing. But I just don't get why. I don't know. It's a weird tactic to just like keep showing these and be like, do you know this person? 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 And then like go to the one. I mean, maybe they're trying to hide their other intentions inside of this interview because they are clearly slowly trying to get him to be placed by that church where that body was found to like establish a timeline. But still, it's just a little strange to be like all over him about specifically these, like over and over. I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird.
And I'm really feeling insulted here because all of these people, it's like I told you earlier, Lonnie, I mean, come on, we're grown men here. I'm not playing games with you. I'm laying my cards right here on the table, just like this. I'm laying my cards right here. I'm telling you. Maybe one, I'd say, okay. Two, I wouldn't be going to Vegas if I were you, because your luck isn't that good. But look at all of these, straight up. This young lady, her name is Henrietta Wright. Go ahead, take a close look.
No recollection at all.
No recollection, or you just don't?
I don't know her. I don't know her. But ugly, I don't know her. So,
what?
But ugly, I don't know her. Sorry, I don't know her.
As it seems, the
Okay,
interrogation is going nowhere. The detective on the left interjects with a more empathetic approach, hoping that Lonnie will crack
Jerry
and
over
show
here,
any
dude.
type of consciousness, thus leading to a confession.
What do you think it would feel like to have your little girl murdered, dumped in an alley, and not know how that came to be for 25 years? But somebody left their DNA signature, like their thumbprint, on my little girl.
Just somebody.
25 years over a number of these for 25 years, all the way up until recently, just a couple of years ago.
Yep, someone.
That person continues to leave their DNA thumbprint on all these young ladies who had a life, had families. They may have been out working, they may have had some drug problems, whatever, but they still have loved ones. And that's your little girl. That's your little girl out there, and some guy that's got a problem, he keeps picking them up, having his way with them.
Problem is a bit of an understatement, but
dumping them in alleys like they're trash. But he's leaving his mark. He's leaving his. It's like a dog pissing on a fire hydrant. That's you. You're leaving your mark every single time you do this. Well, now the science has caught up with you. Mr. Franklin, your signature is on every one of these young ladies. There's no denying that. There's no getting out of it. You need to man up and start talking to us what in God's name caused this to happen, caused Mr. Lonnie Franklin, when he's not working on a car, when he's not with his wife and children, when he's not driving the trash truck or fixing a police car in a garage somewhere, why he's out creeping at night and he can't control himself, or he just whatever. But how did this happen? These families, just like you would want to know if something happened.
At night, man.
We'll talk about that in just a second.
This is a very peculiar statement made by Lonnie. As the detective tries to understand Lonnie's situation, it took approximately 13 seconds to reciprocate and refute a minuscule allegation. Through the course of this interrogation, this was one moment Lonnie verbalized a bit more emotion through his intonation when denying this accusation.
Very weird. I don't creep at night. How dare you?
Deborah Jackson. There's my cards. There's my deck right there.
Yeah.
I think my hand's a lot better than yours right now, Lonnie. Your bluff ain't cutting it. You a poker player?
No, I'm poker.
Good, because I wouldn't be gambling with this either if I were you.
Billboards up on Western Avenue with the reward and all the faces, these faces.
Right here. Oh, you've seen the billboard. There's one right at 91st and Western.
If you haven't seen the news over the last several years, if you haven't seen the news over the last several
Interesting. I wonder why there was. I wonder what made him do, like, have a male victim one time. There's a It is not very often that killers deviate from their choices. It depends on. It could be a witness. That's fair. You could argue that. But it's not a common thing for like I said, serial killers don't have a they might have a specific person in mind, but they might take it out on people who are similar. Ed Kemper had a lot of contempt for his mother, and would take it out on college women. That's why he was called the co-ed killer, because he would pick up co-eds, which is like some old term for college opposite sex or something. I don't know. But he had a lot of built up like irritations over the years from his mom, and that caused him to target females. Just females. People that's interesting to me, because people, like, serial killers don't tend to do that. They don't. I wonder if they'll discuss whatever caused this to happen, or this makes it look like there's another male who got away that they're not identifying, but I thought they said somebody survived, and I thought it was a woman, but maybe this is a second person. I don't know.
You haven't seen the news over the last several years? You know what the news calls you? You tell me what the news calls you. I know damn well you know. I mean, you watch the news at night. You watch TV
I
on
heard him
occasion.
talk about some guy on the news.
Well, what do they call him?
He definitely watches it.
The Reaper?
The what?
The Reaper?
He definitely watches it.
Grand Reaper? Something like that.
The Grim Sleeper.
Oh, okay. I know it's something like that.
Yeah.
This was a perfectly placed question made exactly for a serial killer. There's a stereotype pertaining around serial killers being extremely narcissistic and taking great amount of pride into their doings. In this case, this may be partially true, as Lonnie is quite aware of his nickname and even has a little chuckle after.
Yeah, I saw it on TV. I look at TV.
Well, of course you do.
Yeah, I got TV in every room.
Well, there you go. All right.
There it is. And
and here we are, sitting here. Paul and Dennis are sitting here having a chat with the Grim Sleeper. And that is Mr. Lonnie.
Not gonna lie, dude. If I saw two white cops, first of all, I would go for the name Jake. Definitely Jake. Paul and Dennis are two other names I would expect a white cop to have. Don't know why. Just the Pauls and the Dennises of the world give off that kind of energy. I don't know.
David Franklin Jr.
It's not me, my man. Sorry, it's not me.
Okay, then you tell me how all of your DNA got on every one of these gals.
I have no way. I have not a clue.
Well, I know
I haven't been with these girls.
Well,
I don't know how my DNA got there.
Well, you're laughing. This is not a funny.
No, it's
this
well, when you tell me something like that, I wasn't with them.
Okay, well then, how did your
DNA flew out my window and landed on them just before death? It's the craziest thing.
Well, I mean, this is your problem, and I guarantee you, Lonnie, we're going to do everything in our power that you never see the light of day outside of a prison again. Do you understand that?
I understand that. But I had nothing to do
you're not going to see Crystal unless you're talking to her through plexiglass windows. You're not going to see Sylvia.
I like how he said plexiglass.
To her through plexiglass windows. You're not going to see Sylvia.
Plexiglass.
You're not going to see.
You worked on your last car.
I don't know why. That's funny.
You've instantly become a billboard celebrity off Western Avenue, and unless you start talking and tell us what happens to Mr. Lonnie Franklin to cause this to happen? What goes on? And I mean, are you two different people or something? I mean, is there another little side of Lonnie Franklin that we're unaware of that snaps in the middle of the night every couple of years? He goes out and kills somebody.
He says, "No, I don't kill at night." Oh.
I haven't killed anybody. So
Whoops.
One of these gals has survived, and she's going to have a grand time sitting in a courtroom looking down at a man that did her some terrible things years ago.
Here are a few stories from the survivors whom lived to tell the tale. If you would like to proceed with the case.
Oh. Ooh. Let's see how this goes.
So what's your name?
Cookie.
And how long have you been on the street?
Since I was 18.
And how long did you meet Lonnie?
6 to 7 months.
You were with him?
Yes.
10 times or more?
Yeah, maybe more. Yeah, I have been with him more sexually.
Why did you go with him so many times?
Because he paid me. Well, I was prostituting real, heavy then. So it was about the money.
I'm not a prostitute nor a whore. I meet men in the streets and they be nice men. But this particular night, this man wasn't nice.
I met him in 87. I've been 91, 92.
2007. And he had approached me, very kind man, sweet guy, and asked me if I had smoked.
Not all of them are sex workers, guys.
Yeah.
Some of them.
It was one late night. I was walking down the street. Yes, I do drugs. I was high at the time. Was trying to get more money to get more drugs, and a van pulled up.
Damn, she just ripped. Yes, I do drugs. Good for her.
Circle the block. He kept circling the block.
He pulled over.
Yep.
And asked me, did I want to get high?
What are you gonna do?
And did I need some money? So I said, sure.
So I get in. I take my block down. I keep the window down. That's a little safety. Because at nighttime, your voice carries if you scream.
Mm-hmm.
He seemed nice, intelligent in the beginning.
Sounds like it worked.
And he asked me why would a pretty girl like me being out there smoking, did I want to go with him? So I walked with him, and we got in his car, and he took me to his house.
Man, his house was nasty.
Where would he take you?
In his garage. He never wanted to go in the bedroom, And he had pictures of a lot of girls and stuff. Crossed out. He used to have him crossed out.
He was weird because we had, he wanted to do different things. He wanted to do stupid stuff. I got naked. He showed me the money, but he never put it in my hand. Then he wanted me to give him head and stuff. It was okay for me to do that, but he never gave me the money.
It was normal at first, and then he started doing weird things, asked me to do weird, sexual things with bottles, and he would ask me to just take a regular, like a 40-ounce bottle, actually.
Pause. We're gonna.
Something like that. Girls again, I heard from him,
At the time, I believe the house was like green.
Green?
I don't want to know.
Yes. The house was green. I remember that everything in it was like soundproof. No one can hear you outside.
He wanted to put the handcuffs on me.
And we're skipping. Something that I don't think is talked about enough and is a very unfortunate piece of reality in crime is that sex workers on the street and drug users on the street are unfortunately common victims of these sorts of people, mainly because to nobody's surprise, the police don't care and don't tend to give a shit that a random non-valuable person, I say that in quotes because that's obviously not true, and that's just police being police. They don't put forth the same effort for somebody who is on the streets trying to fight for a way back into society, or out there for necessity, or out there because of vices. They don't tend to put as much effort into a case involving someone like that as they would with somebody like me who's just doing fine. You know what I mean? And that's the problem, and that's a real danger for these people, is that they become victims of these sorts of crimes because they're out there in a very non-public environment doing something that is technically not legal in a secretive way, you know, and it's unfortunately a target. It puts a target on their back if they meet the wrong person. And what's more unfortunate is because of the fact that this sort of stuff isn't legally supported, nor is it consciously cared about by the police. These people become victims so easily all the time because they're just not looked after. And that's why you'll see a lot of them support each other or not speak about it with especially the police, because the police do not care about people on the street. And you'll see this time and time again. Just the abuse of sex workers and homeless people and drug users on the street. The police will not have their back. And it shows heavily in stuff like this. You know, I don't think even one of them in the interviews clarified that they were not a sex worker, but they become easy targets because they're just not looked after. They're just it's just a shame. People can say, how does this happen? You can lose your mind thinking about the absurdity of the fact that someone like this guy is able to get away with killing so many people before the police start really catching on to it. But that's the reality. The reality is that, unfortunately, the police don't care about a significant majority of the people who fall victim to serial killing, especially if they work on the streets for one reason or another, because they become an isolated victim. They're easily taken advantage of, and the police don't care enough to put the effort in when they were already some random unimportant person in any way. But I this might be a little different. I don't know. This police officer seems a little empathetic, considering he's bringing up that these people have families. But at the end of the day, it's could just be an interrogation tactic, and he really doesn't give a shit, which is why they've probably been dragging their feet this whole time. And DNA evidence is carrying them in this case. But yes, and another thing is that these victims are also black, and that would cause the police to care less because we all understand the racial prejudice that the police have. I think, yeah, it's unbelievable how much just gets piled into this. It's a sad reality, but like I've said many times, I'm just gonna kind of keep talking for a little bit because an ad's about to play. Heads up. It's a sad reality, and I can't reiterate enough how important it is that we expose ourselves to this sort of stuff, because the better equipped you are to understand that this is a very real situation that a few too many people have to deal with all the time, the better you are at understanding somebody who might be your neighbor and you might not know it. You know what I mean? And you have a better way to speak to them, and you have a better understanding. And you know, at the end of the day, we're all just people. We all have a lot of things in common, and we've decided like the 5 or 6 things that we don't share are the most important, when it really doesn't fucking matter that much. It's silly. It's silly that it has taken, I don't even remember how many. It was 16 or 12 victims. 12 people died. So in order for the police to finally like pick it up. I mean, yeah. Looks like, or I guess one of those people was a survivor. So 11, maybe more. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And I think the only reason here that the police give a shit is because they have the DNA evidence to just make it simple. You know, you're thinking, excuse me, I mean, the ad's playing. Let me really quick. Where's that sheet? Where did they show that? Here.
Right here.
1985 is the earliest. 2007 is the latest. I mean, I cannot imagine that the earlier kills, even the 2007 kill, I can't even imagine the police would care. They still don't. I can't imagine that they would be told a black sex worker got killed and the police would be like, we have to get to the bottom of this because it's a human being who's dead. They'd be like, we don't care. Still do all the time. I'm glad that I can make you guys aware of this. It's a real thing. It's the unfortunate reality. But why? What do you mean, but why? It's an extremely broad question, don't you think? I think the police are put into a position of power with little to no regulation, with little to no training, with little to no repercussions, with little to no academic background. So people who want that power over certain people worm their way into a system that perpetuates it and even defends it because of commonality in that group. Where do you want me to continue, man? There's so many reasons. you can't justify a police officer existing in this climate. He said, fuck most police, and then said, but why? And then I answered his question, and he K'd me. Hit me with a singular K. Like I'm his girlfriend arguing with him. Why are you asking the question and then responding in a snarky manner? What? Good police cannot exist in the current environment. And this is why. It's not because all of them do bad things. It's cops do bad things, and the entire system in place defends that thing. It's not about if all of them do a bad thing. It's about the ones doing bad things and having that entire system back them up regardless of if that thing is bad. So when cop A commits a horrendous crime as a police officer, he gets I don't know what that was about. He gets the entire backing of the police for no reason other than they wear the same uniform and have the same job. And that is encouraged. That is perpetuated. That is encouraged. That is the norm. The norm for police is to back police, no matter what happens. And if somebody were to go against this norm of police backing each other, they are immediately ostracized from this system. Arrested, replaced, like job change, demoted, etc. Any truly good cop that is attempting to cut against that dynamic gets cut down, because the entire environment is built to defend themselves regardless of what they did. We saw a man have the entire force of his body on a dude's neck filmed a year or so ago. Filmed. There is video evidence of this guy doing it. And every single person who defends police officers found every other reason to blame him for it. Not the police officer who literally killed a guy. They found every other reason to blame a victim, despite seeing literal footage of this person asphyxiating a man as he's begging for his life. It literally doesn't matter what that person did. That person is choking a man. There's footage of him doing that. And it's tooth and nail to convict that. Why? How is that an arguable thing? It shouldn't be. And that's the problem. Like, that's the exact issue. It's all of them. It doesn't matter if your random fucking uncle, who's a good cop to you, hasn't done anything actually wrong while he's on duty. He works in an environment that encourages the blind defending of awful people who become police officers and commit horrendous things while on duty. And whoever the fuck you have anecdotal evidence of for being a good cop is a part of that. They are included, whether you want them to be or not. They're in there, complacent in the system. The complacency is the problem. Whether they commit something like that or not, doesn't matter. Their willingness to be there and decide they're okay with it, that's the problem.
Talk, but we got one that can.
Well, they talk. They talk through the evidence that points at you. Lonnie.
Yes, sir.
You're 50, what, you'll be 58 next month, right?
Correct.
You know, like I say, you're not going to be getting out. I mean, now is the time to sit there so that at least us in the twilight of our careers can go back to these family members with an explanation. Don't you think they're owed that? Wouldn't you be owed that if someone was showing a picture of Crystal?
Yes.
Lord.
And I know that you have a conscience, and you have a soul, and you inside have a problem, and that problem has caused all of these tragedies to happen. But along the way, you left your mark, and I'm sure that wasn't by design that you left your mark. But like I said earlier, science in 2010 has caught up with something that you did in 1985, 1986, 1987, 1988, 2002, 2003, 2007. All of these years that have gone by finally as probably a blessing to you, science has finally stopped what Lonnie Franklin inside can't control. And that's what brought us to today. And I know that you're an intelligent man, that you have a conscience, that you have a soul inside, and that I think you want to tell us. You want to tell these family members of these young ladies that can't talk anymore that you're sorry and that you just you don't know how this happened, but I don't know. You gotta open up and tell us. I mean, it's we don't have all of the answers yet, but we're working on it. I don't know what else to say.
It's all going through his head right now, man.
I wonder where they
He's looking
blurred
at his
out
future.
the
Thinking of his
footage
past
dates.
and what has he done?
Well, he guesses he wants an attorney now, so.
Okay, Lonnie, this is what's going to happen. You're going to be arrested for murder. You have 10 counts of murder filed against you, along with an attempt murder on the young lady that was survived. You're going to be taken down to court.
That was survived.
You'll be arraigned tomorrow. And then just stand by.
When they book you this afternoon, there's a search warrant going on at your house right now. There's police people.
Finally, they arrest him. Oh, he's been arrested.
Searching your home right now. And it also added on the search warrant.
They're just now telling him, but if at any point he tried to leave, they would automatically stop him and let him know. They're just telling him as a favor, I guess as courtesy, because they're clearly about to wrap up this interview. But he's been, like, since they got him to come into the station, he has been detained. They have probable cause. They have evidence to justify an arrest. All that. They're just letting him know now. I mean, he's been arrested. Did they not have to read his Miranda before this? They might have already. I mean, they might have read it to him. They might have read it to him when they arrested him. Or when he came into the station. It just might have not have been on footage.
Is some things from your body. They're going to take a little blood from you. They're going to take a swab from your mouth, and that's by order of the court. So as on the booking process, that's going to take place as well. Okay? So that's all. We respect your request to have an attorney, and that's that. So
how's he going to get these ones?
Any questions?
No questions.
Gonna have to. Oh God. Like awkwardly reach over the serial killer who's not cuffed. I don't think, right? No way. His hands are too separated.
Any questions?
No questions.
After telling him he's not leaving.
Why did all of this happen? Why did you do all of these things? All of these women were defenseless. They were not a threat to you in any way, shape, or form. And after thinking about it, and pondering it, going over it in my mind, I've come to this conclusion, that it doesn't matter why. I can't think of anyone that I've encountered
sounds like sentencing
in all my many years in the criminal justice system that has committed the kind of monstrous and the number of monstrous crimes that you have. All of these people have been suffering and will continue to suffer, but hopefully, as many of them said, they feel they're going to receive some peace, and I hope that you are able to leave here with some peace today. But it's not vengeance, it's justice, Mr. Franklin. And so, at this time, I will say that the defendant is not eligible for probation, and probation is denied.
W.
And so, Lonnie Franklin Jr., for the first-degree murder of Deborah Jackson as alleged in count 1 and the special circumstance of multiple murder, it is the judgment and sentence of this court that you shall suffer the death penalty. The total non-death sentence is life plus 25 years to life plus 14 years. All of that consecutive.
I have to rehear that.
Murder. It is the judgment and sentence of this court that you shall suffer the death penalty. The total
Okay, so that wasn't about the eligibility. That was whether he is.
Non-death sentence is life plus 25 years to life plus 14 years. All of that consecutive.
Damn. I didn't expect it either. I mean, you guys know how I feel about it. It's a hard thing to argue about. There's a lot of short-term reasons that people would want the death penalty, and I understand that. But I don't think there's, and you're free to disagree, but this is my channel, so I can say what I fucking feel like. But I don't think there's better reasons to sentence somebody to death rather than keep them in jail until they slowly decay and suffer after having caused so much pain for so many people. You know what I mean? Talking about how police have no training or no education, you should educate yourself on those aspects. I would love to sit here and have a conversation about police, but most people can't have an actual conversation. Cool. So I'll tell you right now, American police that do not get trained for more than a year in the academy. American police officers do not need more than a high school degree to be a police officer. In fact, having a college education does not do anything for a police officer except maybe get more payment, but not by much. So they don't actually need anything past a high school degree. Some of them don't even need a high school degree. They just need the the training for academy, which isn't super long, which is another problem. They don't get trained long enough, consistently enough, and morally enough to be suitable for a job in which they can abuse their power at any point scot-free because they live inside an environment that perpetuates and allows shitty behavior. So I don't understand how you think that the training and education of a police officer is suitable when it's less than a year's time. They don't need a higher academic education. And even if you think they do, many still commit these terrible things, and they're always defended by that system. I don't know how you can argue about that to me when I didn't study this exact thing for 4 years and have a degree in criminal justice, the system they abuse, for you to tell me to educate myself because your uncle is a cop and you see him do nice things on Facebook. Okay? I'm not going to sit and have a conversation with you. I'm going to implore you to open your ears and shut your fucking mouth. Because your privileged ass clearly doesn't understand the gravity of a significantly tiny amount of training for the protectors of society. That is not long enough. That is not enough of an education. There is not an amount you could give me that would be enough, because even if they had enough training, even if they had a good education, even if I was wrong about the time frame and the level of education they could be, they have to have, it's not enough because the system itself is still fucked up. Because all of them back each other up, no matter what the hell happens, no matter what they do. One of their fucking fellow police officers can asphyxiate a man in front of him, and they will watch, thinking that they still have the right idea. The person who killed George Floyd's partner watched him do it, let him do it, didn't stop him, even defended him. Explain that. He was watching a man choke to death, begging for his life by his partner of a significant amount of time, and just let him do it. His fellow officer was literally killing somebody. Fucking telling me that I need to educate myself. Fuck you. Absolute fucking weirdo. Know your fucking place, you little privileged asshole. People are fucking suffering because of the shit things in place. That's insane, dude. I don't know how you can even argue. Like, I don't care who you know. I don't care what person talks about how good their dad cop is or whatever. They are a part of a system that is rotten. Like, they are in it and they are okay with it. It doesn't matter if whoever you know hasn't done something bad. They are a part of the bad. The whole thing is a bad, and they're okay with being in the bad. You understand that, right? That's the whole argument. The entire thing is bad, and they look around, they go, man, this place kind of smells. And then they just go about their day. Like, there's like a rotting corpse in the corner of the room they're in, and they just like ignore the rotting corpse and continue to work. You understand how like weird that is, right? It doesn't matter if like you're not the rotting corpse. there's still a rotting corpse directly next to you. So you should probably put it in the trash or dispose of it properly where it belongs. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if there's like one rotting corpse or 2 rotting corpses out of like 500 rotting corpses. There's still 2 rotting corpses that are sitting in the same room as you. And it's kind of weird that 2 have gotten there, right? Like, it's weird that it's happened twice. You know what I mean? And if you're just like letting them sit there, it's slowly going to take everybody in. You know what I mean? I'm going to play Elden Ring now. Fuck y'all. It's time. Too many fuckheads. Too many fucking weirdos can't handle the idea of whoever fucking random ass blue line bastard they know who is nice to them. They can't fathom the idea that they're also a bad person involved in bad things. That's like saying like you know like the nice mafia member. What is that? They're still in the mafia. What do you mean? What do you mean?